The night it all began tasted like rain and regret. Leon Vasiliev stood beneath the soft gold lights of the Metropolitan Gallery, the press swarming outside like a tide he refused to let touch him. His tailored charcoal suit absorbed every flicker of shadow, sculpting him into the kind of man people whispered about in stories they didn't know were true. Billionaire, power broker, gentleman with an edge sharp enough to cut through the dark. But tonight, he felt restless, as if something invisible in the air had shifted an inch to the left. He never liked shifts. A string quartet played something elegant behind him, though he wasn't listening. He was scanning the crowd the same way a wolf would scan an open field, calm, quiet, with the sort of confidence that didn't need to growl to be heard. A subtle hum of tension threaded through him, and he didn't know why. Not yet. But he was about to. And that's the thing about fate. It never knocks. It simply walks in, uninvited and unapologetic. Have you ever had a moment you didn't realize would change your entire life until later? Tell me in the comments. He felt her before he saw her. A shift in the room, a hush in the air. Not silence, just a different frequency, like the world leaned in. Leon's gaze lifted. And there she was. A woman in a deep midnight blue dress, the color catching the light like the sea at the edge of a storm. Her hair framed her face in soft waves, but it wasn't beauty that struck him. It was stillness. She walked as if she had learned long ago how to move without drawing attention, even though attention naturally pulled toward her. As if breathing too loudly would break something delicate she carried inside. She didn't belong here. He could tell from one look. Not because she was underdressed, she wasn't. And not because she looked intimidated, she didn't. She looked alert, watching everything, noting exits, memorizing faces, standing too close to walls, too far from crowds, like someone used to being hunted. Leon's jaw tightened, instinct stretching awake inside him in a way he hadn't felt in years. He didn't believe in coincidences, and this didn't feel like one. His right-hand man, Stefan, approached from the left, murmuring under his breath, "Your meeting with the board is in 5. Leon didn't look away from her. Reschedule. Stefan blinked. They have flown in from 2 countries. Reschedule. Stefan followed Leon's gaze and exhaled a quiet, knowing sound. Ah. Though Stefan was one of the few people who could decipher his silences, Leon ignored the implication. Attraction had nothing to do with this. Not the heat curling low in his chest, not the way he couldn't seem to look away. It was instinct. Something about her spelled danger. And yet, she had no idea he existed. Not yet. She moved to a painting, an abstract piece of fractured colors, and stared at it with an expression that didn't match the art. Sad, lost, like the painting reminded her of something she didn't want to remember. Leon walked toward her before he made the decision to. He didn't approach strangers. He didn't start conversations at events. He didn't break his own rules. But tonight, something in him loosened. "Interesting choice," he said, standing beside her, leaving enough space not to startle her, but close enough to feel the tension ripple through her shoulders. She didn't turn at first. She simply inhaled, steady but shallow. It's the only one that feels honest. Her voice was soft but not fragile, measured like she was always ready to fold herself back into silence. He studied the painting. Honest how? The colors don't pretend to belong together. She finally turned her head slightly. They exist in the same frame despite not fitting. Their eyes met. He felt the impact like a quiet blow to the chest. Her gaze was bright, steady, carrying an exhaustion that didn't come from lack of sleep, but from life. The kind someone gets after surviving too much. Leon's expression didn't change. Years of discipline wouldn't allow it. But something internal shifted again. "Leon Vasiliev," she said, before he could introduce himself. He stilled. "You know me. Everyone knows you." She turned away from the painting and began to move toward another piece of art, as if she hadn't just unsettled him. "No," he said, following. "I'm the kind of man people talk around." A hint of a smile ghosted across her mouth, brief, but real. "Maybe." "And you?" Leon asked, stopping beside her again. "What should I call you?" She hesitated. Not long, but long enough for him to notice. "Aria." A beautiful name, too beautiful for the heaviness she carried. "Well, Aria," he said softly, "you're not from this world." A flicker of warning flashed in her gaze. "You don't know anything about me. I know enough." His voice stayed calm, steady. "You avoid mirrors but study exits. You've counted the security guards, twice, and you flinch at raised voices, not visibly, but internally." Her breath caught. Leon continued, "That's not the behavior of someone attending an art charity for entertainment." Her fingers curled at her sides. He waited. Not pushing, not prying, just observing. Aria exhaled slowly. "Maybe I'm just not comfortable around crowds." "Crowds don't scare you. People do." Her mask slipped for half a second, long enough for him to see the truth. He didn't like that truth. Not one bit. Before he could say more, a man across the gallery dropped a champagne flute. The sharp crack of glass hitting marble echoed through the room. Aria flinched. Not dramatically, not obviously, but enough. Leon's eyes darkened, not because she reacted, but because her reaction was too familiar. He had seen that kind of flinch in people who had learned to brace for things that never should have touched them. She swallowed, forcing her shoulders to relax. "I should go." "You just arrived." She stepped back. "And you don't even know me. I know enough to see you're leaving for the wrong reason." Her throat tightened. "You're wrong." "No," he said, voice low, steady. "I'm not." She held his gaze for a heartbeat too long, then turned toward the exit. Leon exhaled through his nose. He should let her go. He had more important things to deal with than a mysterious woman with haunted eyes. His world was built on precision, order, untouchable composure. He didn't interfere in strangers' lives. It was his rule, his only rule. But the moment she stepped through the glass doors into the night, Leon said the words before he could stop himself. Stefan appeared at his side. "You want something." Leon's fingers flexed once at his side, an almost imperceptible tell. "Get her for me." Stefan blinked. "Sir?" Leon's eyes remained fixed on the door she disappeared through, storm-dark and unreadable. His voice dropped, quiet as thunder in the distance. "Find out who she is, where she came from, what she's running from, and bring her to me."
Rain glossed the pavement outside the Metropolitan Gallery, turning the street into a dark mirror. Aria stepped into the night as if crossing a threshold she didn't want to look back at. The air hit colder than she expected, like the city itself was exhaling against her skin. She kept her steps steady, not hurried, not too slow, just controlled. Control was all she had left. Her dress clung to her slightly as the mist deepened, and she hugged the small clutch to her chest, a subtle shield between her and everything else. She told herself she wasn't shaking. She told herself the encounter inside hadn't unsettled her. She told herself she didn't look back, but she wanted to, because Leon Vasiliev was not a man someone simply walked away from. The thought alone quickened her heartbeat. She reached the corner, waiting for the traffic light to change, attempting to slow her breathing. The city felt louder tonight, sirens in the distance, the low hum of engines, the faint laughter from a bar across the street. Ordinary sounds, but sharp enough to trip her instincts. Arya wrapped her arms around herself. She was fine. She had been hiding in plain sight for months. She hadn't slipped, not once. So why did meeting him make her afraid she'd just had? A sleek black car rolled slowly up to the curb beside her. She tensed. Not again. Not tonight. But the rear window lowered and Stefan leaned slightly forward, his expression calm, composed, polite in a way that somehow didn't soften how dangerous he looked. "Miss Arya," he said, voice carrying easily through the rain. "Mr. Vasiliev would like to offer you a ride." Her pulse jumped. "No, thank you. It would be safer." "I didn't ask for safety." Stefan studied her for a second, then glanced subtly at the shadows across the street. Arya followed the look and saw nothing. Nothing visible, anyway. Her stomach tightened. Stefan's tone remained gentle. "Even so, he insists." "I don't belong in his world," she said quietly. "Maybe not, but he thinks you need protection." Her breath fluttered. Protection was the last thing she could afford to want from a man like Leon. And yet, she wasn't foolish enough to pretend her instincts weren't screaming that something about tonight was wrong, something unseen, something creeping closer. Arya exhaled shakily. "I can't." Stefan tilted his head. "Then let me drive behind you." She hesitated. No interaction, no questions, just distant supervision. Her grip on her clutch tightened painfully. "You don't take no easily, do you? It's not personal. It's orders." The light clicked green. Her body chose for her. She got into the car. Not because she trusted them, but because she didn't trust the alternative. The soft hum of the engine cut through the quiet as the door shut behind her. The interior smelled of subtle cologne and leather, elegant, expensive, composed. A world opposite her own. Stefan closed the door gently, walked around, and slid into the driver's seat. No partition. No barrier. Nothing to separate her from the fact that she had just stepped into the orbit of the most untouchable man in the city. Her voice was soft. "Where are you taking me?" "Wherever you want to go." She blinked. "You're not taking me to him." "Not unless you ask." Arya deflated a little in her seat. She didn't understand this man, this world, these rules. People like Leon didn't ask. They commanded. She gave Stefan an address, a quiet apartment complex on the outskirts, and the car moved through the rain-slick streets with silent efficiency. Arya watched the city lights blur past her window, her thoughts jumbled, tangled, spinning. Leon Vasiliev. He was wrong about her. She wasn't scared of people. She was scared of being found. And he looked like someone who didn't stop looking once he started. Across town, Leon stood before the same painting Arya had been staring at, hands clasped loosely behind his back. The gallery had thinned out, music dimmed, voices drifted. But he didn't move. His rule wasn't complicated. Never interfere where emotion is involved. Emotion made people reckless. Emotional attachments clouded judgment. They created cracks in walls he had spent a lifetime fortifying. But when she flinched at the sound of glass breaking, that rule had shattered silently inside him. Stefan's return broke his focus. She gave an address. Leon nodded, once. And? She refused a ride, eventually accepted one under condition I take her where she wanted. Leon turned slightly. Did she seem threatened? Stefan hesitated. He rarely hesitated. Yes, he said finally. Not by us. By something else. Leon's jaw flexed. Follow up. On what? On everything. Stefan inclined his head. Understood. Leon's voice lowered. And do it quietly. Always. When Stefan left again, Leon glanced once more at the painting, the fractured colors, the tension between them. Nothing belonged together, and yet all of it was trapped in the same frame. He had a feeling Arya knew that metaphor too well. Arya's apartment building was modest, old brick with rust-edged railings, the kind of place no one paid attention to. Exactly why she chose it. She got out before Stefan could open her door. Thank you, she said, stepping into the sheltered entryway. Stefan nodded respectfully. Have a good night. She paused. Does he usually do this? Do what? Send someone after a stranger? Stefan gave her a faint, almost sympathetic look. No. Her stomach dipped. So why me? That's a question you'll have to ask him. Arya looked away. I won't, she whispered. Stefan didn't push. He just gave a polite incline of his head and got back into the car and drove off. Only when the taillights disappeared did Arya's breath rush out in tremors she couldn't suppress. Inside her apartment, she double-locked the door, checked the windows, checked them again, then pressed her back to the wall. Her phone buzzed. Her entire chest went still. Slowly, she reached for it. Unknown number. Her pulse thudded once hard. She answered. A voice she hadn't heard in months slid through the speaker. Smooth, cold, familiar in the worst way. Arya. Her stomach dropped. No. He shouldn't have found her. She covered her mouth, forcing the air from her lungs. You've been hiding, the voice continued softly. But you should know by now, you can't disappear from me. Her fingers trembled. I'll come for you soon, he whispered. Don't run again. The call ended. Arya sank to the floor, knees hitting the carpet silently. She didn't cry. She didn't make a sound. She just stared at the phone in her hand, her heart splintering in panic. She thought she had escaped. She was wrong. And the worst part, the part that made her chest twist in fear, he never moved alone. He always sent someone first. Someone who would watch. Someone who would follow. Someone who would... A soft creak echoed in the hallway outside her door. Her breath stopped cold. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Right outside.
She covered her mouth again, barely breathing. The steps paused. Silence. Then, another sound. A second pair of footsteps. Different weight, different rhythm. And then, a quiet knock. Not aggressive, not threatening. Just two measured taps. Arya's heart pounded painfully. Please don't be him. Please. Please. A low, calm voice drifted through the door. Arya, it's Leon. Her vision blurred. What was he doing here? How did he even... Another soft knock. I'm not here to hurt you, he said, voice steady. Gentle even. But something's wrong. Let me in. She closed her eyes. Her past was coming for her. Her present was standing at her door. And she didn't know which one scared her more. For a moment, Arya couldn't move. Leon's voice on the other side of her door felt unreal, too calm, too steady, too quiet for a night like this. She pressed the back of her head against the wall, trying to pull in air that wouldn't shake. He shouldn't be here. Not at her door. Not tonight. Another soft knock came, much gentler than before. Arya, Leon said, his tone low but unwavering. I know you're there, and I know you're not okay. Her chest tightened painfully. He couldn't know that, not truly, not with certainty, unless he recognized fear the way she recognized danger. Silence stretched between them, long enough for Arya to wonder if he'd eventually walk away. He didn't. Instead, his voice lowered even further, as if he didn't want the hallway to hear him. I won't force my way in. That's not who I am. But you need to tell me if you're in danger. Her breath stuttered. Danger. The word itself felt like a memory carved into her bones. She edged toward the peephole, her fingers trembling against the wood. Slowly, she looked. Leon stood alone. No guards, no Stefan, no shadows lurking behind him. Just him. Hands in the pockets of his coat, shoulders relaxed, expression unreadable but alert, like every sense he possessed was listening to the quiet of this hallway. His presence unsettled her, not because she feared him, but because she didn't. That alone was dangerous. Arya swallowed hard and unlocked the first bolt. The faint click echoed louder than it should have. Leon's head lifted slightly, just enough to show he heard it. He didn't move closer. She unlocked the second bolt. Her fingers shook as she opened the door a few inches, just enough to look at him fully. He didn't smile, didn't push, didn't let his gaze wander past her shoulder, just asked one quiet question. Who called you? Her breath fractured. She hadn't expected him to see it so clearly. Her silence was answer enough. Leon shifted his weight, barely, as if restraining the instinct to protect. Let me in for 1 minute. If you ask me to leave after that, I will. His voice held no demand, just certainty. Arya hesitated, heart pounding, thoughts tangled, instinct screaming. But which instinct? The one telling her to run, or the one telling her she wasn't safe alone? She opened the door. Leon stepped inside quietly, closing it behind him with a soft click. The room felt smaller with a minute, not claustrophobic, just grounded, like the air itself settled. He scanned the room once, not rudely, simply assessing, noting shadows, checking corners, listening. Then he turned to face her. What happened? Arya wrapped her arms around herself. It's not your problem. Leon's tone didn't change. Something frightened you. That doesn't mean... It does, he said simply. There was no arrogance in his voice, no assumption, only observation threaded with an unsettling amount of understanding. Arya looked away, staring at the floor. He found me. Leon's eyes darkened, almost imperceptibly.
Who? She shook her head. It doesn't matter. It matters, he said quietly, because whoever he is, he made you terrified enough to hide in silence. That's not something I can ignore. You don't even know me. I know fear when I see it. She froze. Leon stepped closer, slow, deliberate, a movement meant not to corner, but to anchor. He stopped at a respectful distance. You don't owe me details, but if someone is hunting you, her breath hitched. Leon paused. They are, aren't they? Aria's voice fractured. He said, he's coming for me, and he never moves alone. He always sends someone first. He absorbed that, expression sharpening subtly, as though every part of him locked into focus. Calm, quiet, dangerous, but contained. He asked, what's his name? I can't say it. Then describe him. I can't do that either. Leon exhaled, the sound controlled but heavy. Aria, pretending he doesn't exist won't protect you. I'm not pretending. I'm surviving. Silence. Deep, heavy, understanding. Leon stepped back, giving her space she didn't know she needed. Then let me help you survive. Her throat tightened. You shouldn't help me. It'll pull you into something you don't want. His eyes didn't waver. I don't help people blindly. I'm not someone worth helping, she whispered. He studied her for a long moment. No one runs like you unless they were worth saving a long time ago. The words hit her chest with an ache she didn't expect. She blinked rapidly, fighting emotion that clawed up her throat. Leon didn't press. He simply listened. For the first time in months, she didn't feel hunted. She felt seen. And that terrified her more than anything. A sharp buzz broke the moment. Leon reached into his coat and checked his phone. His jaw tensed, barely noticeable, but she caught it. What is it? She asked. He turned the screen subtly away, though not in secrecy, more in deliberation. Stefan found something. Aria stepped back instinctively. About me? No. Leon slid the phone back into his pocket. About outside. Her blood chilled. Outside? There was someone watching your building. His voice stayed calm, measured. They followed them. They slipped away. Aria's knees weakened. Leon moved before she swayed, not touching her, but steadying her with presence alone. You're not imagining this, he said. You're not overreacting. Someone is watching you. Her breath shattered into panic. No, he can't be here yet. I moved. I hid. Leon spoke quietly. Aria? She forced herself to meet his eyes. You're not alone anymore. For the first time, something in his voice carried heat, not anger, not emotion, but promise. She covered her mouth, shaking. Leon turned slightly, assessing your room again, mind working in silence. Then, you need to leave this apartment. It's compromised. Aria nodded without hesitation, fear guiding her faster than thought. Leon reached for his phone. I'll have Stefan bring a car. No, Aria whispered. He paused. Why not? She swallowed, voice barely a breath. If anyone sees me leave with your men, they'll know where to look. Leon stilled. She was right. He pocketed the phone slowly. Then you leave with me. Aria froze. With you? No entourage, no guards, no cars trailing us. His tone dropped into something calmer, darker. Just me. Her pulse skittered. Where would you take me? A safe place, he said simply. She hesitated, not out of distrust, but disbelief that someone like him would step into her nightmare. Leon watched her quietly, letting her decide. Finally, she exhaled. Okay. Leon nodded once, swift, resolute. We leave now. He opened the door carefully, scanning the hallway. No sound, no movement. He turned back to her. Stay behind me. Arya stepped into the hall, her heartbeat roaring against her ribs, and for the first time since her past began hunting her, she didn't run alone.
The hallway felt stretched thin with silence, every shadow sharper than the last. Arya stayed close behind Leon as he moved with smooth, unhurried strides. Quiet but certain, like he had walked into far darker places with far less hesitation. He didn't look back at her, but she felt his awareness circling her like a shield. At the stairwell, he paused just long enough to listen. Arya could see the fine-tuned focus in his posture, the stillness of a man who didn't trust elevators, didn't trust enclosed spaces, didn't trust anything he couldn't control. "Stay close," he murmured. She nodded, following him down the steps. Her hand skimmed the cold metal railing, anchoring her trembling breath as they descended floor by floor. "What if he's already inside?" she whispered. "He isn't," Leon said, voice steady. "Someone was watching from outside, not entering. That means they're observing, not acting yet." "How can you be sure?" "I've dealt with watchers before." His tone lowered. "They're cautious, cowards usually. They don't move until they're certain." Arya's pulse thundered in her throat. "Certain of what?" "Where you are and who you're with," Leon answered quietly. A chill crawled up her spine. Leon reached the ground level and stopped again, hand resting lightly on the stairwell door. He didn't touch it yet. He listened first, always listening. His control wasn't loud. It was silent, measured, intentional. Finally, he glanced at her. "Ready?" "No." Not even close, but she nodded anyway. Leon pushed the door open. The lobby was dim, lit only by the faint glow of an exit sign. A few mailboxes clattered softly from the draft. The building was old, worn, unremarkable. But tonight, it felt wrong. Leon stepped forward, scanning the corners before guiding her through the exit. The outside air hit colder, sharper. His car, a sleek, deep gray sedan, waited across the street, droplets glistening on the hood. Arya hesitated. "What if someone's watching from—" "They are," Leon said. She stiffened. He continued calmly, "But they don't know who they're watching anymore." She looked at him, unsure what he meant. His gaze flicked to her briefly. "Because you're with me now." Something about the way he said that, quiet, factual, not boastful, settled a strange steadiness into her chest. Leon opened the passenger door for her. Arya slid inside. The door shut with a clean, muted thud that seemed to seal her into a different world entirely. One of leather seats and subtle warmth and the faint imprint of his cologne, something dark and restrained. Leon got in next to her, starting the engine without hurry. He didn't turn on the interior lights, didn't speak yet. He simply drove, smoothly, deliberately, each movement controlled. Arya stared at the blur of passing buildings, trying to piece together breath, thought, logic. But everything felt distant, like she'd stepped out of her own life and into someone else's. Minutes passed before she finally whispered, "You shouldn't have come for me." Leon didn't take his eyes off the road. "I did." "You don't know what you're risking." His fingers tightened around the steering wheel, a small shift, but visible. "If someone is threatening you, I don't care what the risk is." Arya swallowed. "Why?" "Because I saw your fear," he said quietly, "and I don't ignore things like that." Her throat constricted. Leon continued in the same calm tone. "And because the person who called you, he wants to pull you back, which means you escaped something he thought he owned." She flinched. Leon noticed. "He doesn't own you." Arya stared at the passing streetlights, their glow slicing across her vision like memory. "You don't even know what he did. What I—" "You don't need to explain," Leon said. "Not now." She pressed her palms against her knees, grounding herself. "You talk like this isn't unusual for you." He gave a short exhale, not a laugh, more an acknowledgement. "It's not." "What do you mean?" He glanced at her, storm-gray eyes flickering with something unreadable. "People in my world don't ask for help, but they do run from it.
I've learned how to see the difference." Arya looked away before he could see the emotion breaking through her. "Where are we going?" she asked softly. "A safe house." Her pulse stumbled. "Your safe house?" "Yes." She turned to him in shock. "Leon!" He kept driving. "It's off-grid. No one knows the location except me and Stefan, not even my board." "That's too much," she said, voice cracking. "Too dangerous." "For whom?" "For you." Leon finally looked at her fully, just for a second, but enough for her to feel the weight of his clarity. "Arya," he said, "I am not a man who invites danger into my home." She inhaled sharply. "I'm inviting you." Her chest tightened so painfully she had to look away, staring at the windshield as rain began tapping against the glass. The car drove deeper into the outskirts of the city, the streets growing quieter, more isolated. Trees framed the road now, bending slightly in the wind. Leon slowed as they approached a long, winding driveway that cut through thick shadows. A discreet gate scanned the car automatically before opening with a soft mechanical hum. Arya gripped her seatbelt. "This is where you live?" "No," Leon said. "Where I disappear when I need silence." Silence. A strange word for a man who commanded rooms with ease. As the car rolled forward, a house emerged. Modern, minimalist, built of concrete and glass. Not ostentatious, not grand, just controlled. The rain made the exterior glisten like polished stone. Soft lights illuminated the pathway, subtle and warm. Leon parked beneath the sheltered entrance and killed the engine. For a moment, neither of them moved. Arya watched her breath fog faintly in the interior, trying to gather the courage to step into a place she had no right to be. Leon unbuckled his seatbelt first, turning to her. "You'll be safe here." Arya whispered, "I don't know how to trust that." His gaze softened, not visibly, not dramatically, but enough for her to feel the shift. "You don't need to trust it. You just need to rest." The door chimed softly as he opened it, letting the rain's quiet hiss drift in. Arya stepped out, wrapping her arms around herself as she followed him up the smooth stone steps. He unlocked the door with his thumbprint. Lights flickered on gently. Warm, soft. No harshness, no sound. A sanctuary built by a man who lived in the noise of power. Inside, the house was spacious, but not cold. Wood accents, deep colors, clean lines. Every detail simple yet intentional. No clutter, no fragility, just strength. Arya exhaled shakily. Leon turned to her, studying her for a long moment. "You're safe here," he said again, quieter this time. But before either of them could speak further, Leon's phone buzzed. He checked the screen. His expression changed. Not visible to most, but Arya had already learned to read the subtle shifts in him. Something was wrong. "What is it?" she asked. Leon's eyes lifted to hers, unreadable, steady, but shadowed with something heavier than concern. "Stefan lost the man who was watching your building," he said. Arya's breath caught. Leon continued, voice low, controlled. "And he thinks the man wasn't alone." The room grew colder. Arya felt it again, that sense of being watched by something invisible. Leon stepped closer, not touching her, but standing near enough that she felt his presence bracing her. "Arya," he said quietly, "your past didn't follow you." Her heartbeat thundered. It arrived.
Silence. Not the peaceful kind, the heavy kind that presses against your ribs and asks what you're really made of. Elijah didn't move for a long moment. Neither did I. The room held its breath with us, shadows stretching long across the polished floor as if they were listening too. He stared at me like he was waiting for my pulse to steady. "You're not safe here," he finally said. Not loud, not panicked, just certain. Like he had already calculated 20 moves ahead and didn't like any of the outcomes. I swallowed. "I didn't ask to be here." "I know." Those two words landed like a weight on the table between us. It wasn't an apology. Elijah King didn't apologize. But it was something.
Something I didn't know how to name. He shifted his gaze toward the window. The street below glowed with the neon smear of nightlife and danger, the kind you feel in your spine before you see it. Then his jaw flexed again. They're close. My skin prickled. Who are they? He didn't answer immediately. Elisha rarely wasted words. He measured them, weighed them, decided which ones could break the room and which ones could save it. Finally, the men who took your brother. The air thinned. My heartbeat punched hard against my ribs, but I told you, he's alive. His voice cut through mine, low and unwavering. Your brother is alive. My vision blurred for a moment. I wasn't sure if it was from the shock or the way hope slammed so violently into my chest that it almost hurt. Say that again, I whispered, barely able to breathe. Elijah's eyes softened, subtly, dangerously. I don't repeat myself unless necessary. It is necessary. He exhaled once, slow, almost reluctant. Your brother is alive. The world went still. I expected relief or joy or something like gratitude to break through me. Instead, what came was an unfamiliar heaviness sweeping into my lungs, because I knew what this meant. If Elijah King said it, then it was true. And if Elijah King said it, then there was a price. Why? My voice cracked. Why are you helping me? Elijah turned to me fully now, and for the first time since I'd met him, there was no cold edge in his stare, no calculation, just clarity. One rule. I have one. His gaze didn't waver. I don't involve innocent people in my world, ever. He paused. Then something in him shifted. And today, he said quietly, I broke that rule. My breath hitched. He looked down as if admitting that cost him something. You were never supposed to see what you saw tonight. And yet you told your men, my voice failed remembering it, get her for me. He didn't deny it. I needed you out of the street before they did. The pieces snapped together so suddenly my stomach knotted. So when you said get her for me, you didn't mean... He lifted his gaze slowly, deliberately. Not what they think, he finished for me. We stared at each other, a silent exchange pulling tighter than either of us probably realized. Then, a knock at the door, a sharp-coded pattern. Elijah moved before the last tap finished echoing, gliding across the room with calm precision that didn't match the tension rising around us. His hand hovered near the concealed holster inside his jacket, not touching it, just acknowledging it. He cracked the door. A man in a charcoal suit stood outside, breath slightly fast, trying not to show it. Sir, he said, we have a situation. Elijah didn't raise his voice. Speak. They weren't alone. A beat. You were right. Someone else is looking for her. Elijah's shoulders tightened just enough to betray concern. Who? He asked. We're not sure yet. But they accessed the south checkpoint, disabled it. My heart dropped. Elijah's next words were a whisper meant only for himself, but I heard them. They're already inside. He shut the door and turned to me. Pack what you have, he said. We're leaving. I stared at him. Leaving where? Why would anyone else be after me? I don't... He stepped closer, lowering his voice until it felt like the whole room leaned in with me. Listen carefully, he said. Your brother didn't just stumble into trouble. He was taken because of something he knew, something someone wants to bury permanently. My legs went weak. What did he know? He hesitated, not because he doubted, but because he was choosing how much to reveal. It involves a list, names, dates, transfers. His eyes locked onto mine. And the people on that list wanted erased. Does this list have anything to do with you? His expression barely shifted, but I still caught the meaning. Everything in this city touches my world, but I'm not the one hunting you. The room suddenly felt too small, too quiet. A storm thickened behind the silence, pressing against us. Elijah, I whispered. Who is it? He stepped even closer, close enough that the faint scent of dark cologne and rain clung between us. His eyes lowered to mine with a calm that almost frightened me more than any threat outside. "If I say their name," he said softly, "you won't sleep tonight." The doorknob rattled. Hard. Not a knock this time, pressure, someone testing it, checking if it would give. My pulse spiked. Elijah didn't flinch. He just tilted his head slightly as if listening for the next move. Then a second rattle, longer, more deliberate. I whispered, "They're already here." "No." Elijah's voice lowered. "They're trying to see how fast I react." He stepped between me and the door, the full weight of his presence shifting, restrained power tightening under calm control. "Stay behind me," he murmured. I did. Not because he ordered it, but because something in me trusted him more than I trusted the air outside that door. A third rattle, harder than the first two, the kind that wasn't testing anymore, the kind that promised they weren't going away. Elijah lifted his chin slightly as, "Let's give them a reason to rethink this." His hand moved slowly toward his jacket, not to draw his weapon, but to remind whoever waited on the other side that he wasn't a man you cornered. Footsteps paused, then retreated. Elijah waited until the hallway fell completely silent before he spoke again. "They won't try the door again," he said, turning to me. "They'll change tactics." My voice trembled. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said, "we have less time than I thought." He walked toward the back exit, a concealed panel sliding open into a private stairwell. "Come," he said quietly, "before the building becomes a cage." I followed him, my heartbeat a frantic echo in the narrow stairwell, because one truth had finally settled in my bones. This wasn't about chance, or coincidence, or wrong place, wrong time. Someone wanted me found. And someone else, someone far more dangerous, had decided he would get to me first. Elijah King had broken his only rule, and now the city was breaking around us. The stairwell swallowed us whole, dim, cold, humming faintly with the electricity of a building that suddenly felt aware of us. Elijah descended first, soundless, controlled, every movement deliberate. He didn't look back, but I could feel him checking every shadow, every corner, every shift of air. He wasn't paranoid. He was prepared. I gripped the rail as we moved down the narrow flights. My thoughts were a storm. My brother, alive. A list that could get people killed. Strangers hunting me through a city I barely understood. And Elijah King, the man with one unbreakable rule, breaking it for me. The silence snapped when Elijah murmured, "Tell me if you hear anything unusual." Unusual? Everything was unusual. We reached the landing between two floors. Elijah lifted his hand, a small gesture, but it froze me instantly. He stepped forward, leaning just slightly to peer down the flight below us. A faint clatter, metal on concrete, soft, almost careless. Except nothing about tonight was careless. Elijah exhaled once through his nose, barely audible. "They're sweeping the building." My pulse slammed. How many? Enough. Enough, in Elijah's vocabulary, didn't mean numbers. It meant capability. Footsteps echoed up from below, light, unhurried, confident. Someone who believed they owned whatever space they occupied. Someone who wasn't afraid of running into Elijah King on the dark staircase. He turned to me, voice low. "Stay close. Don't speak unless I tell you to." I nodded. The footsteps grew louder. Elijah moved slightly to the side, positioning himself between me and the sound, just as he had in the apartment. His body language didn't shift into aggression, just presence, a quiet warning in the air. A shadow reached the landing. Then a man appeared on the steps below us, dressed in plain black, face unreadable. His eyes swept the stairwell, slow and almost bored, until they landed on Elijah. He paused. "Elijah King," the man said, not surprised, almost amused. Elijah didn't answer. He simply lowered his chin by a fraction, a gesture that in any other man would feel insignificant, but in him felt like a door closing. The man's gaze flicked to me. "You shouldn't be here." Elijah stepped half an inch into his line of sight. "Choose your next words carefully." A beat passed. Thick, dangerous. The man lifted his hands slightly, palms half open. Not surrender, just acknowledgement. "We are not here for you," the man said calmly. "We're here for her." Elijah's jaw tightened. "You don't get to decide that tonight." A faint smile. "Not this time." Elijah's voice dropped. "You think I brought her here without planning the exit. You plan the obvious exits, not the one we created." My breath stalled. "Created?" Elijah's eyes narrowed, a fraction of calculation. "Where?" "The basement." The basement? The direction we were headed. My stomach twisted. "You blocked the street?" Elijah asked. "Blocked, rerouted, monitored," the man shrugged. "We're thorough." Elijah's stillness changed, just barely, but enough that I felt it ripple through me like static. "You think thoroughness compensates for arrogance?" "Arrogance?" The man's brows lifted. "You should talk." Elijah stepped down one slow stair, the entire stairwell tightening around the movement. "If you touch her," Elijah said quietly, "your employers will need a new face to send next time." He didn't flinch, but the air did. Behind him, more footsteps whispered up the concrete. A second silhouette, maybe a third. Shapes that didn't rush, didn't threaten, just waited. Elijah's gaze flicked toward the top of the stairwell behind me. Someone else was up there. We were trapped between two unknown forces, and Elijah knew it. He didn't show fear. He calculated. I could practically see the pieces moving behind his eyes. Then he spoke, voice almost disturbingly calm. "You came through the basement?" "Yes." "And the main exits are blocked?" "Yes." Elijah nodded once. "Then you've already made your first mistake." The man tilted his head. "Which is?" Elijah's eyes lifted to mine. "You assumed I don't have a way out you don't know about." I blinked. "What?" He touched my elbow lightly, barely a brush, guiding me backward toward a wall that looked no different than any other section of concrete. To me, anyway. To him, it meant something entirely different. The man below frowned. "You think a hidden service door is going to save?" Elijah pressed his palm to a narrow steel panel disguised as part of the railing mount. A soft click echoed through the stairwell. Then, an entire slab of wall beside us shifted inward. A hidden door. An escape route only Elijah King would have access to. The man below reacted instantly. "Stop!" Elijah grabbed my wrist. "Run!" I didn't question him. I followed, letting him pull me into the narrow passage just as the man below lunged upward, just as the footsteps above us sped forward. Elijah slammed the hidden door behind us. The lock engaged automatically, sealing off the sound of fists pounding against the other side. We were plunged into darkness. Not silent. The faint hum of machinery vibrated through the walls, but pitch black. "Elijah!" My voice shook before I could stop it. His hand found mine in the dark, not roughly, not possessively. Steady. Grounding. "Stay with me," he whispered. We moved through the hidden corridor, our footsteps echoing in a tight rhythm. The darkness seemed endless, bending, twisting around us until I lost all sense of direction. "Elijah," I whispered again, softer now. "Who were they?" He didn't answer right away. He waited until we reached a dim emergency light glowing faintly at the end of the passage. Only then did he stop, turn to me, and let me see the shadow in his eyes. "They're not a gang, not a rival, not even criminals in the way you understand the word." I swallowed. "Then who?" He hesitated. "Elijah," I breathed.
Tell me." His gaze held mine, steady, dark, and unbearably honest. "They're the people that even my world fears." A shiver crawled down my spine. "And they want you because they think you know where your brother hid the list." "I told you my brother didn't tell me anything." "Doesn't matter. They don't need truth. They need a target." We pushed forward. A ladder appeared at the end of the passage, leading up towards a rusted hatch. He looked up, then back at me. "When we go through this door, everything changes." "How?" His answer was the softest I'd ever heard from him. "You stop being someone they're searching for. A beat. And you become someone I'm protecting." I didn't understand why his words hit the way they did. Heavy. Final. Almost like a promise he never meant to make. He climbed the ladder first, cracked the hatch, checked the world above us. Then he looked down, eye steady. "Come, before they catch up." And as I climbed, as he pulled me through the opening into a moonlit alley that smelled like rain and danger, only one truth echoed in my mind. Elijah King didn't break his rules, unless breaking them meant saving me.
Cold night air hit my lungs like a shock. The alley was narrow, shadow-drenched, the kind of place the city forgot, or avoided. Elijah climbed out after me, lowering the rusted hatch with a quiet precision that made the whole moment feel unreal, like slipping through a seam in reality. He didn't speak. Not yet. He scanned the alley, left, right, rooftops, windows, even the darkness behind the dumpsters, his attention cutting through the night like a blade. Not frantic, intentional, focused, like he could hear things no one else could. I wrapped my arms around myself as a tremor ran through me. "Elijah," I whispered, "where are we?" A service alley behind a shuttered textile warehouse. Off the grid. Cameras are dead out here. Dead because of you or because of them? His jaw shifted. Both. A streetlight flickered at the alley's mouth, casting an eerie pulse of white over the cracked pavement. "We need to move," Elijah said. "Move where?" "Somewhere they won't anticipate." He started walking. I followed. My footsteps echoed too loudly compared to his silent stride. My chest was still tight from the stairwell, from the men who had said they weren't here for him, only for me. "Elijah," I breathed, catching up to him. "Why do they think I know anything? Why me? Why not just—" He stopped so abruptly I nearly ran into him. He turned, eyes steady but shadowed. "Because your brother trusted you," he said softly. "And trust leaves a footprint." His words struck deeper than I expected. My throat tightened. "You're saying my brother left something with me?" "I'm saying," Elijah replied, "that desperate men assume desperate intentions. They think he gave you a way to expose them, and they think you'll use it." "I don't have anything," I whispered. "I don't even know what the list is." Elijah studied me as if weighing truth against danger. "You're telling me the truth," he said. Not a question, a certainty. "Yes." His expression changed. Not relief, not frustration, something heavier. A decision forming. "Then you're in more danger than I thought." A gust of night wind pulled at my jacket. A siren wailed far off, carried by the wind like a warning. Elijah motioned for me to follow him again. We slipped out of the alley onto a quiet side street with cracked sidewalks and abandoned storefronts. A dark car sat beneath a broken streetlight, sleek, inconspicuous, probably untraceable. Elijah unlocked it with a single click and opened the passenger door for me. I hesitated. He didn't rush me. He only said, "Inside, while we still have the advantage." I got in. He slid into the driver's seat and shut the door. The engine purred to life. We drove, the city lights smearing into streams of color on the windshield. I waited for him to say something, anything, But Elijah King wasn't the type to fill silence just to chase away fear. So I broke it. You said they're the kind of people even your world fears? Yes. What does that mean? Who are they? Government? Mercenaries? Some... Not government. He paused. Not officially. A chill slid through me. They're called the Meridian Circle, he said. The name felt wrong in the air, too smooth, too quiet for what it implied. Are they like you? I asked. His eyes stayed on the road. No. Then what are they? Elijah's voice dropped lower than I'd heard all night. They operate where law and crime meet. The gray space. The place where people like me control the streets. He turned a corner, the city buildings thinning around us. But they control the silence. I frowned. Silence? The kind paid for in information, secrets, compromises, hidden deals between powerful men who pretend they don't know each other. Why would they care about my brother? Because, he said, your brother stumbled on something he should never have seen. My chest caved in with dread. Elijah, I swallowed. Did they kill him to keep him quiet? Elijah didn't answer immediately. Streetlights flickered past like ghosts. Finally, he said, if they killed him, they wouldn't still be looking for you. My breath shuddered out. But, he added, voice tensing, they won't keep him alive forever. Not if they think they're running out of time. My hand flew to my mouth. Elijah glanced at me, eyes sharp with something I rarely saw in him. Not calculation, not drama, just truth. And truth from Elijah King was heavy. I tried to speak, but he lifted a hand, eyes shifting past me toward the trees. His posture sharpened again, danger sliding back into the edges of the moment. Elijah? I breathed. He leaned forward slightly, focusing on some distant point in the darkness. We're not alone. My blood ran cold. He killed the engine. Within seconds, another sound drifted through the trees. Soft, rhythmic, almost gentle. Footsteps on wet leaves. Not rushing, not hiding, approaching. Elijah reached for something under his jacket, not drawing it, just acknowledging the weight of it. Stay in the car. But before he could open his door, a voice echoed from the darkness. Calm, confident, familiar. Elijah? He froze. The hairs on my arms rose. The voice stepped closer, still unseen. It's been a long time, the man said, amusement curling through the shadows. The air tightened to a point. Elijah whispered, under his breath, almost too low to hear. Not him. My pulse roared. Elijah? I whispered, trembling. Who is that? He closed his eyes for the briefest moment, like he was bracing himself. Then he said a name that made the entire night tilt on its axis. Aldrich Vale. My breath stopped. Who was Aldrich Vale? Elijah opened his eyes, darker than I'd ever seen them. The only man, he said quietly, who knows all my secrets. A soft chuckle drifted from the trees. And the only one who can take something from you and not give it back. Moonlight carved his silhouette first. Tall, lean, sharply cut like he belonged to the night more than the world that breathed beneath it. Aldrich Vale stepped into the pale glow filtering through the trees. He didn't look like a monster. He didn't look like a criminal. He looked like the kind of man who could walk into any room, a boardroom, a gala, a funeral, and walk out with everyone's secrets wrapped neatly in his pocket. Elegant, controlled, dangerous in a way that didn't need to raise its voice. His eyes found Elijah's first, a subtle tension snapping between them like a live wire. I'm almost disappointed, Alderic murmured, his tone smooth and quiet. "You didn't run." Elijah opened the car door, stepping out with the calm of a man who refused to be cornered, even when he was. He didn't slam the door. He didn't posture. He simply stood. "Alderic," he said, voice low, "turn around and walk away." A soft smile ghosted over Alderic's mouth. "You used to speak to me like an equal. I used to think you had limits." "Everyone has limits," Alderic replied. "I just don't pretend mine are moral." His gaze flicked to Elijah's through the window, a quiet, assessing glance that lasted only a heartbeat, but it felt like he weighed everything about me in that moment. "Ah," Alderic murmured, "the girl." Elijah took a sharp step forward. "She's not part of this." Alderic's eyebrows rose slightly. "No, because it appears the Meridian Circle disagrees with you." "You're not with them," Elijah shot back. Alderic's smile widened. "No, I'm above them." The night stilled. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. Leaves rustled overhead. My breath fogged the window as I pressed back into the seat, watching every shift of their body language. "Elijah," Alderic said, circling slowly, hands in his pockets of his dark coat, "you've broken your one rule. That alone makes this historic." Elijah didn't respond. "Protecting someone," Alderic continued softly, "means giving your enemies a map to your weaknesses." Elijah's jaw clenched. "I don't have weaknesses." "You do tonight." They stared at each other, two storms meeting in the middle of an abandoned road. Alderic tilted his head. "You know they're closing in, yes? Meridian's men will be here in minutes. They want the girl. They want whatever her brother hid. They believe you have it. The city isn't safe for her. And you know what happens to people caught in the middle." Elijah didn't blink. "And you," Elijah asked quietly, "why are you here?" Alderic's voice softened. "Because I never liked seeing potential wasted." He took another step closer, boots silent on the wet ground. "You've built an empire, elegant, controlled, but tonight, you made a decision that wasn't strategic." He paused. "It was human." Elijah didn't move, but something in him tightened. His control, his restraint, his entire presence bending with what he didn't say. Alderic watched him with unsettling interest. Then his voice dropped to a whisper. "Who is she to you?" The world held its breath. Elijah said nothing. Alderic smiled knowingly. "Ah." He turned his back to Elijah, the most disrespectful and dangerous choice possible, and walked toward my side of the car. Elijah stepped forward instantly. "Alderic?" He kept walking. "Elijah," he said without looking back, "in all our years, you've never raised your voice at me. Don't start now." He reached the passenger door. The cold slid into my bones. Alderic leaned just close enough that his shadow fell across the window. "You've caused quite the disruption," he said almost gently. "Your brother, you, the list. You have no idea how many people are recalculating their lives because of you." I swallowed hard. Alderic's eyes were unreadable. "Do you know where it is?" "Where what is?" I whispered. "The list.
The one capable of toppling families, governments, old money, new blood, ruin disguised as information. I don't have anything, I breathed. I believe you, Alderic said, and it frightened me more than if he hadn't. Which means they'll tear this city apart to find what your brother hid. Elijah moved so silently, I didn't hear him until his reflection appeared across the window. Alderic, he warned. Alderic stepped back finally, turning to Elijah. Let me help you. Elijah's silence was absolute. You can't fight the Meridian Circle alone, Alderic added softly, but you can with me. Why would you help me? Elijah asked. Because back when I used to care, I'd never let amateurs with too much power ruin anything. Alderic stepped back, finally turning to Elijah. Let me help you. Elijah's silence was absolute. You can't fight the Meridian Circle alone, Alderic added softly, but you can with me. Why would you help me? Elijah asked. Because back when I used to care, I'd never let amateurs with too much power ruin anything. You don't do charity, Elijah said. No, Alderic agreed. I do investments. And I'm investing in the only person who ever threatened me without saying a word. Elijah's eyes sharpened. What do you want? Safe passage for the girl, Alderic said, and the truth about where her brother hid the list. I told you, I wasn't asking her, Alderic murmured. He looked Elijah dead in the eyes. I was asking you. A blade of silence cut between them. My breath caught. Elijah, I whispered, my voice barely audible. You know where it is? His eyes closed, not from fear, from decision. Alderic smiled faintly. He knows. Elijah opened his eyes. Danger and clarity settled into them at once. I know where your brother left the trail, he said softly to me. Not the list itself, but the way to it. I stared at him, heart in my throat. Why didn't you tell me? Because once you know it, you can't come back from it. Alderic stepped forward, interest sharpening. So, where is it? Elijah looked at him, then at me, and he shook his head. No. Alderic blinked, amused. No? No. No one gets that information, Elijah said. Not Meridian, not you. You'd risk your empire for a girl you met tonight? Elijah lifted his chin slightly, confident, quiet, deadly calm. I'd risk the city. Alderic stared at him. Then he laughed once, low, disbelieving, not mocking, impressed. Very well, Alderic said. Then I'll help you buy time. Elijah stiffened. Why? Because the Meridian Circle overstepped, Alderic said simply, and I don't enjoy amateurs with too much power. He turned away, walking back toward the trees. But before disappearing into the shadows, he called over his shoulder, Elijah? Elijah didn't move. Whatever you feel for her, Alderic said quietly, you'd better understand it soon, because protecting someone is the fastest way to get yourself destroyed. The forest swallowed him whole. Silence crashed in his absence, heavy, brittle, electric. Elijah exhaled slowly, lowering his head as if resetting his restraint. I opened the passenger door.
"Elijah," I whispered shakily, "what do we do now?" He lifted his gaze to mine, and even with danger closing in, even with secrets pressing against the night, even with a war brewing in the shadows of the city, his voice was steady. "We run. We hide. We outthink them." A beat. And then his tone deepened, threaded with a promise he never intended to make, yet couldn't stop. "We get your brother back." The wind shifted, the trees swayed, the road stretched into darkness. And as he opened the driver's door, Elijah King glanced at me with something fierce and unspoken in his eyes. The kind of look a man gives when he's already decided he will burn an empire to protect you, and he will break every rule he's ever lived by because he already did.